Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got the Glock 26 Gen 5 and 9mm, and I've got the Glock 28 Gen 3 and 380 ACP. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts, linked to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. And please consider supporting the channel on Utreon, where we could do some videos that we can no longer do on YouTube. So I've got a fairly newish gun from Glock, which is the Gen 5 Glock 26. It's not really new, but it's probably the latest in the 26 lineup. And I've got a very old, yet new to us gun, the Glock 28 Gen 3. This has been available for a very long time, except in the United States. It couldn't be imported. Recently they started making these in the United States, so they're here now. So I'm just going to do a short video to compare the two, because there's really not a whole lot of differences between them. And you might have a Glock 26 already, or be considering a Glock 26. You might like the form factor, holds 10 rounds in the flush mag, and in the 9mm the Glock 26 goes all the way up to 33 rounds in the various mags. For all the bigger guns, the mags will fit. And it has U-dot sights, just like your typical Glocks. And the 26 in the Gen 4 and Gen 5 have replaceable back straps and this RTF style texture, the little pyramids. It's very comfortable to hold. You can see the pyramids. It's very comfortable to hold. It stays in your hand. With the replaceable back straps, you can customize it to your grip. And Gen 4 and 5, you can reverse the magazine catch as long as you use Gen 4 or 5 magazines. And the Gen 5s add ambi slide stop slide release. So a lot of features as you get into the higher generations. The Gen 5s also introduced the Glock Marksman barrel, which is a kind of a hybrid between standard rifling and polygonal rifling. But other than that, this is the baby Glock that's been around for a very long time, and it is a good form factor. There's a lot of guns that are coming out now with thinner grips, same capacity, or in some cases more capacity and a similar footprint. But this does fit the hand well. This is one of those guns that, for a subcompact, like pocket gun, that type of thing, it's just right. And that's what still makes this gun relevant today for people that either have larger hands or they're not looking for the smallest, lightest thing. They're looking for a little bit of weight for recoil control, but still that short grip making it easy to hide. One thing you'll notice, and this is true of all the Glock 9mm, the front of the barrel hood is very square. And it's part of the locking mechanism. It's part of what locks it up when it's cycling. And of course it is unloaded. I should have shown that earlier, but of course we check all of our guns before we start any filming. So that's what you're looking at with a Glock 26. And the dimensions on this is 6.42 front to back. The 28 that's sitting over here is 6.5, so it's 0.08 inches longer. It's not really relevant to whether or not you're going to be able to carry it the way you want to carry it. It may be relevant to holster choices. It may affect which holsters you can fit. It's 1.30 inches thick. The Glock 28 over there is 1.26, so this is a little bit thicker. And it's 4.17 inches tall with the flush magazine in it, and that's identical to the Glock 28. So the grip height's the same. The 26 is shorter and fatter than the 28, but not by significant amounts. So the numbers I'm throwing around aren't going to make a difference on how you carry it or where you can carry it. They will make a difference potentially in certain Kydex holsters, may or may not be interchangeable. I would say most of them should work. And a lot of what it seems like that extra length on the 28 is the barrel, how much the barrel sticks out. Slide actually appears to be the same. So let me pull the 28 out, and of course it's unloaded. But the first thing you'll notice is the barrel hood has got a cutout in it. And that's because there is no lockup on this. It's straight blowback. But unlike most blowbacks, it's a tilting barrel, just like many of the Glocks and actually most guns you see. So it's a blowback with a tilting barrel is not a common setup, but this is blowback. Now one thing you might look at is, okay, well, why would I get a 380? Well, one of the reasons is lighter recoil. It's a less powerful round. But blowbacks tend to have heavier felt recoil. This one doesn't. The recoil on this is nearly non-existent. It's really smooth, really light. It's not snappy at all. It's very comfortable to shoot. So if you've got somebody who's would want a Glock 26 because it fits the hands, but the recoil on the 26 is a little too stout, you could go to the 28 and that recoil just disappears. So that's probably the biggest attraction to it, other than, of course, Glock collectors, because they're only going to make 10, maybe 20,000 of these currently planned. If the market takes off, who knows? They may make more, but these could actually be made, be sold, sell out, and disappear again from the U.S. market. That's one of the attractions to it. Now, why would I get this over something like the P365 380? Well, the biggest reason is it's that full-size grip in your hand with a nice short two-finger grip to fit. So that's probably the biggest reason you would do it. I'm going to try to set these on their end just so you can see that length difference. It's going to take me a second to get them lined up correctly. Line them up for the camera. Really, if I can move my hand out of the way once I get them set, you can't see it. And I really do think that the slide's about the same length and the barrel just sticks out a little bit further. Overall length is a hair longer. So the length most likely is not going to influence holster choices. The thickness may. And of course the grip height's the same, so that's not going to have any influence. So overall, if you are looking for something a little less recoil, but you like the Glock 26 pattern, this would be a good choice. The other big difference, and this is going to favor the Glock 26, so let's do the Glock 26 first. It's got a Gen 5 trigger. So it's got a little bit of take-up, and the Gen 5s have a fairly smooth but a little bit longer wall, and then a very nice break. There's the reset, you're right on the wall, and again, a smooth but a little bit of a longer wall and a break. The Gen 4s have a lighter wall, but it's a little more crisp, so it's a little more, you hit a wall and then pull through. The Gen 3 would have worked better if I pulled the magazine out of it. Gen 3 has basically the same take-up, light take-up, but then you hit a very stiff, about a 6-pound wall, and it's a very, very firm, I'm here on the wall, and then I'm not. So it's a very short break, but it's a noticeable crisp stop. And then that same really nice short reset, you're right on the wall, and then again that stiff wall, and then a very crisp, noticeable break. The triggers are different, and I'm not going to say this is bad trigger by any stretch. I did well with it, but it's going to come down to what you like, trigger feel. Now, if they Gen 5 this, it'll probably get the same trigger as a Gen 5. Otherwise, the trigger may be something that is different enough from the other ones that you've got that may influence you. Reliability, this 26 that we had and the other 26s we've worked with, worked from round 1 and just worked all the way through. This one actually had 2 issues, but they went away in the same range session. The very first round, I pulled the trigger, it failed to extract, left the spent case in the chamber, cycled it out of there, and every round after that worked flawlessly. Then I did the Barney test. I put a single round in a magazine, chambered it, and then put a full magazine in. And the first time I pulled the trigger, it jammed, didn't cycle correctly. So I fired the rest of that magazine, it worked flawlessly. And then I did it again. And the second time I did it, it worked perfectly. So 28 does appear to have a little bit of a break-in period, probably having something to do with getting that spring seated correctly. But beyond that, it's worked after that. So we had those 2 issues, each a single event, and then after that it worked fine. So I don't see this as having reliability issues beyond a break-in period. So the other thing about this is it comes in at 20.64 ounces. The 26 Gen 5 is 21.68 ounces, so it's just a hair heavier. It's not a significant difference in weight. I'm sorry, it's 21.69. Still, it's not a significant difference in weight. So you might actually be at this point thinking, why would I bother with 380 if it's going to be the same basic size, same basic weight, same basic footprint as the 9mm, and just go with the 9mm? Well, if you're not recoil sensitive, if you've got stronger grip, if this type of thing is what you want, then you're going to make that decision. You're going to go with 9mm. However, the recoil on this is exceptionally light. The slide is a little lighter than the 9mm. The thicker grip is often easier to get a hold of if you have grip problems in your hands. Those little tiny things like the LCP and those micro compacts, and even the current breed of micro compact high capacities like the P365, the grips are thinner and they often don't fit the curvature of a hand well. If you've got strong hands, you're an experienced shooter, you're going to be able to handle those guns no problem. Weaker hands, weaker grips, less experienced shooters might find that the 26 is just a bit too snappy, because it is a fairly light gun with a 2-finger grip for that capacity, for that caliber. But the 380 is just perfect. The recoil on this is so light and so smooth, And once you're used to the trigger on it being just a hair heavier than some others that are out there right now, it's easy to pull tight grips with it. It's got good accuracy. It's mechanically accurate. And whether you like the U-dot sights or not, you got to admit they're easy to see. So overall, this isn't a gun for everybody, and it isn't necessarily going to kick the P365 380 to the curb for the mainstream. But there is a good selection of the population that would find something like this useful, that maybe have looked at the 26 before but found it just to be a little too snappy for what they can handle. This is actually perfect. The other combination for this is, you've got a ankle gun in 380 because you're going to maybe a 42, something small. You got this in 380, so you could have some consistency there. So again, it's not a gun for everybody, but it does have a place where it fits, and I think for those people that would benefit from something like this, it's actually a really good choice. So in summary, the Glock 28 is effectively a 380 Glock 26, and it gives you a little bit of the recoil management or recoil abatement and a little bit lighter. So there is a place for it. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, kind of everywhere. And also please consider checking us out on the paid subscriber tiers at Nutrion, where we're going to start to do early releases and videos that we no longer are allowed to do on YouTube because of their policies. So we'll also continue, of course, doing YouTube videos. Beyond that, have a nice day. Thank you.